is our MMA analyst, Robin Black. We love hanging out with Robin. Robin, this is such a fascinating rematch because the initial matchup between these two fighters happened in such strange circumstances. Masvidal took the fight on such short notice. At the same time, when you lose a fight that badly, does it still give Usman a big psychological advantage going into their rematch this Saturday?
Great question, brother. A very complex answer. Let's see if I can find a way to answer this. Hey, do you remember the time that John Jones told Joe Rogan that he did cocaine the week of his fights? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something in performance psychology called self-handicapping, where you create a scenario in which if you win, I won despite the fact that I did cocaine the week of my title fight. If you lose, you say, well, I lost, but I wasn't quite myself, therefore next time it'll be different. We don't want that as a performance psychologist or a sports psych or a mental coach. You don't want that, but it does give you some power. It gives you this out. It allows you to say next time it'll be different. Jorge Masvidal, 6 days notice, that wasn't really me. This time it could be different. It allows him the out. Doesn't always work, but that little out can allow him to approach this fight different.
And obviously these fighters will approach this fight differently. I guess you have to approach every fight differently. But how do you see the game plans working out for each of these fighters going into Saturday, Robin?
Yeah, everything changes in theory. May I offer you a personal story? Maybe it relates to this.
I'd love to hear it.
So I had a rematch back when I was fighting. The first fight, I choked the man out in 2.5 minutes. He took it on 6 days' notice, and he said everything was going to be different. This time he would be trained. The game plan would change. Do you want to know how that one went, Jay?
Let me hear it.
I choked him out in 1.5 minutes the next time. I won this belt, in fact.
Nice.
Right? The game plans do not win fights. We like to talk about the game plan, what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. But ultimately, the dynamics of the fight go the way they're going to go. Yes, last time Usman had a linear path. If he makes Jorge tired, he will win the later rounds. This time, he does not have such a linear path. He has to win every round. He can win every round. And the whole fight is different. It's a unique experience for both men.
There are a couple amazing title fights on the ladies' side at UFC 261. The heaviest favorite is strawweight champ Valentina Shevchenko. She'll defend against Jessica Andrade. She's won 6 straight, has Shevchenko. Her only 2 losses are against the GOAT, Amanda Nunes. But it's more than just her skill in the ring that has made her such a special fighter, Valentina Shevchenko, in your mind, Robin.
True. You know, when you hear like the great blues guitarists play, you can hear the life experience in the notes, right? And it's the same thing with Valentina when she fights. You can feel her life in her visceral way of fighting. She grew up in Kyrgyzstan. She had to fight not dozens, but hundreds of times in different styles of fighting. She traveled through many areas. Her and her coach, who's like a father, and her sister, who's a fighter, ended up in Peru, of all places. They had to fight their way out. They were in a gunfight at one point. Her story is fascinating. I urge people to go look at Valentina Shevchenko's story. But even if you don't, you can feel it in the way that she fights.
15,000 fans in Jacksonville on Saturday. It's going to be unbelievable to watch and witness, and I think for a lot of us, we might wonder if it's a great idea, but at the same time, it's got to provide a boost to the fighters, right, Robin? It's got to.
It'll affect them. So there's a lot of things, mental skills that are real. You have to train them and prepare them and practice them. There's the skill of knowing your zone, knowing your optimal emotional performance. There's the skill of assessing where you are in the moments of the fight. Am I too excited? Am I too under-excited? And there's the way that you handle things like the crowd and the urgency and all of these things. They're out of practice in those things. Both fighters, all the fighters on the card, they're out of practice in these very real psychological skills. So the guy who can adapt, or the women who can adapt within these fights and adapt within sort of that brand new feeling environment is the one that will do well.
Robin Black is going to be covering UFC 261 for us all throughout the weekend. Enjoy the fights. It's going to be different, and it's going to feel maybe familiar again.
Enjoy the hostilities, my friend.